Imagine having a family you take care of. For some of you, that won't be too hard. As you take care of them, you want nothing but the best for them. You want them to grow up where it's safe, to have a bright future, and have opportunities. Maybe even become somebody. So, you decide to take the ultimate gamble and move. You pack up your family, taking only the essentials, and leave everything you ever knew behind. The journey to this new land won't be easy. And odds are, at least one of you in the family will die on the journey. But you weighed your options and believed this would be worth it. And even getting to your new home won't be easy. And once you're there, it still won't be easy. You're a foreigner. Your neighbors speak a different language than you, and they watch you with suspicion and possibly even hatred. You don't know anything about this land, and they don't know anything about you. Did you make the right choice, traveling all this way? Could it really be better than where you were?
Hey, we agreed no politics on this channel.
It's amazing how little things actually change. I'm not talking about what's happening currently, but the founding of America. Since Christopher Columbus's arrival in North America, millions of people have immigrated to America seeking a better life. Believe it or not, but even 100 years ago, it was more dangerous than it is now. There weren't cell phones, TV, radio, or planes. Moving to America meant most likely you would never see anybody that you knew ever again. And the postal service wasn't as reliable as it is today. 2-day shipping would be a fantasy to them. Supplies, let alone letters, could take months, even years, to get to you. Nothing paints the risk better than the first attempted English colony in the Americas. This was before the 13 colonies that we learn about. Long before the Pilgrims and the Mayflower, and even before the first slave came to America.
I'm guessing things didn't go so well for them?
Honestly, we don't really know. Well, lore lovers, I have a tale to tell you today. A good mystery. The legend of the lost colony of America on Roanoke Island. Now let me paint the setting for you. The Spanish conquistadors pillaged and plundered South America. In the name of Christianity and lust for riches, the Spanish decimated the local civilizations in South America. The Mayan, the Inca, and the Aztecs. These empires that rivaled the glory of Rome were now on the brink of extinction. The Spanish did such a good job at this that we know very little about these people. But I digress.
Yeah, you seem pretty upset by it.
I am! Entire cities were slaughtered for gold. I could rant for this for hours. The English wanted some of Spain's wealth, expand their empire, and establish trade routes. They believed they were on the cusp to China. So they decided to make a settlement of their own. To establish a foothold within the Americas, England wanted a colony. Sir Walter Raleigh was in charge of this establishment, as he had inherited this land.
How can you inherit something that isn't yours? That's like saying if I die, you get all of South America.
Yeah, it's a long story. But basically a man named Sir Humphrey Gilbert claimed any land north of Spanish Florida that wasn't already owned by a Christian kingdom was his. And after he died, Raleigh got the southern portion of the lands. So, in what is now Dare County, North Carolina, he wanted to settle on Roanoke Island. Ralph Lane was the first governor in 1585. And this colony was more of a military settlement. There weren't any women or children. It was all men, and they were there to excavate and check out what resources were available to them. It's believed that around 700 men were part of this crew to settle the colony. Half would stay, and the other half would go back to Europe to get more resources and get more colonists, and slowly but surely build it up. However, a storm happened and separated one of the ships carrying most of the supplies. This made it so only 100 men could stay behind. This didn't completely destroy the mission, as they could still complete it. It would just be a little harder, and it wouldn't be as extravagant. Now, before I go forward, I need to tell you something I'm extremely excited about. and that's pirates. Pirates, especially around this time frame, are my favorite parts of history. But even back then, it was all about politics. If you had a license to be a pirate, you were considered a privateer. And if you didn't have that license, you were a pirate. This will be important in later stories, so I'll probably mention it again, probably during Pirate Week, so stay tuned for that.
That's like having a license to kill. Arr, I'm boarding your ship and taking your booty.
How dare you!
No, it's okay. I have a license for this.
Spanish fleets were taking English commercial vessels in retaliation for English privateers attacking them. Between a storm causing loss of supplies and this, the settlers had to rely on what they could find on the island and the generosity of Native Americans. Shouldn't be too difficult, right? Well, not really. As you can guess, the English never really played well with the Native Americans. As the English fleet was leaving, a silver cup went missing. The English, especially Ralph Lane, believed the Native Americans had taken it. The governors and others confronted them, and the Native Americans denied ever having it. They demanded for the cup to be returned, but the Native Americans didn't have it to return. But Governor Lane didn't believe them, so he burned the village to the ground. As winter settled in, the English had to rely heavily on Native Americans for food. And fewer Native Americans actually cared about them. So finally, in June of 1586, the colonists made contact with privateer Sir Francis Drake. And they all abandoned the island to return to England. It was just days later that the ship carrying supplies arrived at Roanoke Island. After interrogating the Native Americans, they decided to leave 15 men behind so they could still lay claim to the land. 2 were killed in an ambush, and the rest got away in small boats, never to be seen again.
You said we don't know what happened to them. Sounds like it didn't go so well, and they either gave up or got killed.
Oh, this was just the first attempt. There's a second.
So, let me get this straight. They tried settling the island, upset the Native Americans, to the point they killed them and drove the settlers out of the island, and then they decided, why not? Let's try it again. That doesn't make any sense.
Pirates. Well, one pirate. And that pirate's name is Simon Francis. Before sailing the colonists to Roanoke, he was a pirate in the Caribbean, attacking Spanish ships. This one was less militaristic, as it had both men and women and no children, although Eleanor Dare was on the ship and she was already pregnant. Simon Francis stopped at Roanoke, as their intention was to start a new colony in the Chesapeake Bay, a little farther north of where Roanoke Island is. This was to find the 15 men, as they had no idea they were already gone. After everyone disembarked, Simon Francis left, refusing to let them in. Nobody knows why he did this, but most believe it was so he could plunder the Caribbean once again. The new colonists were lost. Slowly looking around, they found the old settlement, mostly destroyed. They tried negotiating with the Native Americans, but they didn't want to hear any of it. Within days of them arriving, a couple men were already killed by Native Americans. But it wasn't all bad news. On August 18th, 1587, Eleanor gave birth to Virginia Dare. She was named after Virginia, as back then, it wasn't called North Carolina, but Virginia. She was the first English native to be born on American soil that we know of. Much like the first attempt, a crew was to be sent back to England to regain supplies and get more colonists. And on August 27th, 1587, Governor John White and a few others left for England. And they were supposed to be back the following spring. The governor left behind roughly 120 colonists. Governor White arrived in England just in time for war. The Spanish were preparing for war against England, and all ships were ordered to remain in England to help defend the country. In March of 1588, Governor White was granted to go to the Caribbean and Roanoke to offer supplies, but a storm broke out, and they couldn't sail. The English defeated the Spanish fairly quickly, but Queen Elizabeth refused to let any ships leave. And finally, on August 18th, 1590, Governor John White returned to Roanoke Island. So imagine with me, if you will. You see plumes of smoke in the sky, and fear settles in. These are too big of fires for chimneys, and much too black of smoke. Something isn't right. Arriving on shore, you see fresh tracks, but nobody ever makes contact with you. There's a silence here. An unnerving silence. You feel it. Somehow you know it. Somehow you know. There's a problem. Something isn't right. It's been 3 years since you were last here. So much could have happened within that time frame. Colony could be prosperous or under siege by Native Americans. How is little Virginia Dare doing? Is there other children now? Had they tamed the wilds of the New World? Expect the worst, hope for the best. And this silence, this utter silence, is deafening. Hope couldn't be here. There's no way. Something happened. This wasn't a relief effort to drop off supplies. This was a rescue mission. You can feel it. Heading to the village, you find it much more barricaded. Walls had been put up to keep something out. And on a nearby post was the word Croatoan. And on a nearby tree, the word crow. Houses were dismantled, and there wasn't any signs of any other boats. A few of your crew members even found bones of dead humans. It was as if everyone just picked up what they could and just left. Before leaving for England, there were talks of this happening. Governor White believed this meant that they moved to Croatoan Island. The following day they left, though an anchor line snapped so they couldn't safely navigate the seas. They tried going to the Caribbean, but another storm happened and they ended up having to return to England once more. And that happened in October 1590. White never found the missing colonists. In 1595, Raleigh claimed to be wanting to search for the missing colonists. But this was a lie. It was his cover so he could secretly search for the legendary city of El Dorado.
If he found El Dorado, what do you think his explanation would be? I found this legendary city all the way over here instead of searching on Roanoke Island where I said I was going to be? Yeah, they had a sign up saying that the island was full and didn't want any visitors, so we just kept sailing and found El Dorado. That simple.
I'm sure that would have totally worked. Raleigh again claimed this in 1603 for another business venture. And another search happened in 1604. Finally, in 1607, in the settlement of Jamestown, John Smith was captured by Native Americans. These Native Americans spoke of the missing tribe on Roanoke. Though when John Smith was released, he and others could never find them. By May 1609, it was believed that this lost colony was massacred by Native Americans. Though we don't know how this was decided, this was actually a huge factor in deeming Native Americans as savages. Others tried searching for this colony. Native Americans even drew them maps to where they were, but nobody could ever find them. The last search was in 1701, to no avail. Even in the 1900s, as these mysterious stones, that's now called Dare stones, were found, that were etched by Eleanor Dare, telling Virginia the story of Roanoke Island. Though it's debated if these are actually real or a forgery, most believe the first one found is actually real, but it doesn't lead anywhere. To this day, nobody knows what happened to this lost colony. Some even believe it's a conspiracy theory covered up by Raleigh. He knew all along where they were, but was using them in a business venture and wanted to keep it secret from the Spanish. They were farming sassafras, far away from where Roanoke Island was. But this doesn't explain the ruins and bones found at Roanoke Island. Well, lore lovers, what do you think? Did Native Americans kill them? Did they integrate into Native American society? Or did they find a different place to colonize? And if so, what happened to them? Or do we already know about them, but their origin story has been lost to history? Some even believe a supernatural force took them. What do you think? There are so many theories going around about what happened to this colony, and it's likely we will never know the truth. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. As England's first attempt at colonizing the New World, it was doomed from the start. By pride and men's greed, several lives were lost because of it.
Sounds like it's that pirate's fault. Simon Francis? What kind of pirate name is that anyway?
Apparently one who abandons a group of people on an island where they're not wanted so they can pillage and plunder other people.
That does sound piratey.
And if you liked today's video, be sure to like and subscribe, and hit that bell icon to be notified when the next video becomes available. And until next time, lore lovers.